Before I get started in the message, I got 3 questions I'm going to ask you. And most everybody should know the first one. What is, and you don't need to answer, just be thinking this. What is the definition of faith? The answer to that is it's the confident assurance that what we hope for is going to happen. Or it's the evidence of things that we cannot yet see. Things that we hope are going to happen that we can't see yet, but we're confident that they will happen. That would be faith. Number 2, do you believe that everything you do or don't do matters? And if so, does it matter forever, or does it have consequences forever? Question 3, do you believe that each of our lives touch and have an effect on other people's lives that you come in contact with every day? Whether they're familiar to us, they're our friends, they're our family, they're our co-workers, part of our congregation, or just somebody we meet and interact with during our day as we go about whatever it is we do. And in those times when we interact, are we there to impart something or teach them something, or are they in our lives to teach us something at that point? So keep those in mind. And I'm going to give you a little example of this third one so you kind of have an idea of where we're going with this. How many, and you can raise your hands on this one, how many have seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life? Jimmy Stewart. Most everybody. Okay. So I shouldn't have to explain the plot. Those of you who have not seen it, I'll go through it quickly. And this is a story about basically how one man's life touches other people's lives. Jimmy Stewart plays the leading role, and his name is George Bailey in this movie. He grows up in a town called Bedford Falls. He's just a regular guy like the rest of us. Goes to school, graduates from high school, has dreams, has aspirations, wants to get out of that town, go to college, make a career, see places, travel, do all those types of things, just like the rest of us. His dad worked in a building and loan company, and for those of you who are too young to know what that is, that's like a mortgage company. Making loans to basically lower income folks that wanted to try to buy a house, which was the American dream at the time, and get ahead in life. And they were being put down by the mean old Mr. Potter in town, who owned most of the town and wanted everything under his control. And this was one thing he did not have. And as circumstances work out, George never got to go do any of those things he wanted to do. He ended up staying in town. He ended up taking over the building and loan and started to live his life just doing what he thought fairly mundane things throughout his life. He married, he had 4 or 5 children, he knew everybody in town, and he went about his business, making loans, trying to help people out, serving them where he could, loaning them money personally or through the company, doing whatever it was he could to make their lives better. And as the story develops, there comes a time when they have to make a deposit, the money gets lost, they are short in their bank accounts, and they have bank examiners coming to audit their books, and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And Mr. Potter, the old mean guy in town, sits on that board, and he knows this because George has come to him and tried to get a loan from him for the shortage. And he's going to swear out an arrest for him, or warrant for his arrest. And this way he can take over the building loan, disband it, and then take over the town like he wanted. So George doesn't want to do that, but he knows he has a life insurance policy, and if he just ended his life, the proceeds of that would take care of the shortage, and things would go on, the building loan stay in place, people could continue to make their payments and get money for loans and buy homes, which is what he wanted to do. He just felt like it was going to be better if his life ended, or better yet, he never even existed. So God sends down his guardian angel named Clarence. Clarence comes down and hangs out with George for a while. And finally gives him his wish. You've never been born, George. And you get a chance to see what life would be like if you weren't here. So all the things that you know, you remember, never happened. Now, George, when he was young, he had a younger brother named Harry, were sledding on a pond. And Harry breaks through the ice and is stuck in the freezing water. And George goes in and gets him and drags him out. Just a day out playing in the snow as far as George was concerned. Harry grows up, goes to college, goes into the service, ends up being a pilot, and during the Second World War, he shoots down an enemy plane that was looking to bomb a transport ship full of American soldiers. And thus saving all of them, he's being awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Now, George, seeing all these weird things happening in town now because he wasn't there. He hadn't been there to touch or impact somebody else's life. And he's really getting confused. He doesn't know who Clarence is. Clarence tells him he's the guardian angel. He says, yeah, right. And so finally they ended up in the cemetery. And George comes upon a headstone there that has Harry's name written on it. Now this park, or this cemetery in George's life, was the park where these homes were being built. All these nice little pretty homes and people were buying, but now it's a cemetery. And he's going, Harry never died. Well, why is the tombstone here? Why are we in this cemetery? And Clarence says, well, George, I mean, there is no Bailey Park for the homes because it never happened. Harry died. This is his tombstone. He says, Harry didn't die. I pulled him out of that pond when he was 9 years old. He's fine. He went on to be a war hero, get a Congressional Medal of Honor. So no, Harry died, George, because you weren't there to save him. Yeah, but he had to because he saved all those men on that ship. He's getting that medal and says, all the men on that ship died. Because Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save him. And you take that a step further and think of the fact that in that case, all the men on that ship had an opportunity to come home after the war, raise families, and those kids were going to go on and do whatever it was that they were going to do. And in this instance, there wasn't going to be any children because they all died. So you can kind of see how even mundane acts that we have every day with people, positively or negatively, can impact somebody else's life forever. So keep that in mind as we kind of go through the lesson today. I'm going to be talking out of Numbers, book of Numbers, chapter 13. I'm going to skip around a little bit, so you're welcome to follow along in your Bibles or just listen here. And I titled this, Goers. Like if you're on the horse, Carmen would know this. Whoa! Goers and goers. What are we? Let me set the stage here for this scripture reading. Chapter 13 of Numbers talks about the 12 spies that Moses sends into the promised land. Is basically the message here. Now, the Israelites had been traveling for about 3 years since the Exodus out of Egypt. They'd spent about a year at Mount Sinai getting the Ten Commandments and learning the laws and how to live together from Moses, through Moses from God. And then they were on their way. And now they were reaching the promised land. I'm going to jump ahead and read a passage to you about what these folks encountered here. And this comes out of Nehemiah, and I'll come back then to Numbers. But out of Nehemiah chapter 9, it says, You are the Lord God who chose Abram and brought him from Ur of the Chaldeans and renamed him Abraham. When he had proved himself faithful, you made a covenant with him to give him and his descendants the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and on from there. You saw the suffering and sorrows of our ancestors in Egypt, and you heard their cries from beside the Red Sea. You displayed miraculous signs and wonders against Pharaoh, his servants, and all his people. For you knew how arrogantly the Egyptians were treating them. You have a glorious reputation that's never been forgotten. You provided the sea for your people so that they could walk through on dry land, and then you hurled their enemies into the depths of the sea. They sank like stones beneath the mighty waters. You led our ancestors by a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night so they could find their way. You came down on Mount Sinai and spoke to them from heaven. You gave them regulations and instructions that were just and laws and commands that were true. You instructed them concerning the laws of your holy Sabbath, and you commanded them through Moses, your servant, to obey all your commands, laws, and instructions. Then you gave them bread from heaven when they were hungry, and water from the rock when they were thirsty. You commanded them to go and take possession of the land you had sworn to give them. Now that passage actually comes out of the book of the Law of God and was read to the exiles after they had returned to Israel about 1,000 years after the story we're going to talk about happened. So the priests, and at that time Ezra, they had spoken, read these passages out of that book to the exiles to help them remember what their people went through. What we're talking about are folks that were in the front row during that whole time. They lived that whole thing. They didn't have to read it and try to believe it. They were part of it. They saw it. Okay? So they've been traveling for 3 years from Egypt. God had provided for them during the whole time. Their food, their water, clothes and sandals that didn't wear out. They'd seen his power in the plagues in Egypt, so that Pharaoh would release them. They parted the Red Sea and swallowed up the Egyptian army. They followed the smoke cone during the day and the fire at night. And you got to remember, at this point, there was somewhere 1.5 to 2 million of these Israelites that were making the Exodus. And a lot of folks that they brought out, they wandered along. And they grumbled every step of the way. It was always something. It's too hard out here. It's too hot. I'm tired of eating manna. I wish I could go back to Egypt. It was one thing after another that the Israelites were complaining about. Now, 3 years after they left, can't fall off. We are here. This is the promised land. This is what God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob he was going to give us. We have arrived. They were told that this was a very lush land. It was the land flowing with milk and honey, as it says in the Bible. But they grumbled all the way, and evidently they still weren't sold on it. So God told Moses to send 12 individuals into the land and do what spies do, is spy it out for them and return a report. So now this wasn't just Moses saying, okay, God, you two, and a couple back there, go on in and check this out. These were leaders from each of the 12 tribes. So he chose one of the leaders from each of the 12 tribes to go in and do the spying. And you think of what an honor this would have been to be chosen. you would be one of 12 of roughly 2 million that was going into the land to check it out and report back what you had seen. These were considered leaders in each of the tribes. So I assume they were probably being honored for their work, their status, their courage, their integrity, the service they had brought in their tribes over the time. And for this generation of God's people, they're on the edge of entering the promised land to send these 12 guys in, bring back a report that was going to alter everybody's future. It was a huge responsibility. Now, I don't know if you're following along, but how many remember the names of the 12 spies? Nobody. How many remember the name of 6 of the spies? Anybody remember 2 of them? Here we go. We got some over here that remember the 2. Okay. And there's probably a reason for this that we'll get to. So if I pick up in verse 17 of chapter 13, Moses gave these men these instructions as he sent them out to explore the land. Now this is a lot like talking to your kids, it looks like. You have to be very specific of what it is you want. Tell them exactly what you're looking for, or you're not going to get what you thought you were going to get. He says, go northward into the Negev, into the hill country. See what the land is like and find out whether the people living there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good? Is it bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there many trees? Enter the land boldly and bring back samples of the crops you see. And my version says it happened to be the season for harvesting the first ripe grapes. I don't know why Moses wanted some grapes. Maybe he'd been out roaming around for 3 years. He wanted some fresh fruit, and he wanted some grapes. They told him to bring back some grapes. Now, again, we're talking about roughly 2 million people have come up and they are camped on the border. Now, to think that nobody in the land knew they were there, I have a hard time believing. I'm sure they knew that they were there and what they were doing. And this was not going to be a couple of day trip for these 12 guys to go in and check things out and come back. They were going to be gone 40 days. They had to get into the country, roam around undetected, find out all these things that Moses wanted to know, and come back out without being captured or killed. Now, this land that they were going to explore, roughly 150 miles long and about 60 miles wide. So I thought about that, but well, it's kind of like, I don't know what the population, I don't know what it is, 1.8 million, something like that. You get the whole population, they line up over here by the river, and you're going to send 12 guys in, and they're going to explore from there to Boise and within the mountain range within 40 days and come back and report. It's quite an undertaking. But he had faith in them. Now, they slipped into the land, they managed to live there for the 40 days, and they even stole the grapes for Moses. They all came home safely. These were courageous men. They had done what they had been asked to do. They were going to provide a full report of what they saw. I pick up in verse 27. This was a report to Moses. We arrived in the land you sent us to see, and it is indeed a magnificent country, a land flowing with milk and honey. All right, Martha, grab your tent, we're going in. And all of a sudden, 10 of these spies go, whoa, hold on a second. They started giving their reports, and most of them were reporting fear that they felt while they were in the land. Verse 28 indicates that but the people living there are powerful, and their cities and towns are fortified and very large. And we also saw the descendants of Anak who were living there. Those were supposedly a very large race of people. All of a sudden, the fear started to set in. They'd seen fortified cities. They had seen very large people, people that seemed to be fairly hostile. And they started to forget what God had said. God had said, I'm giving this land to you. I promised it to your ancestors. I don't break my promises. You go in. This is how I brought you here. These guys saw all the miracles. They saw all the stuff in the 3 years prior to coming up to that point, and yet they were doubting God. Then all of a sudden, the two spies, Caleb and Joshua, they kind of hop up there and they try to encourage the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once to take the land. We can certainly conquer it. They were the only two that offered the challenge of moving forward into the land that God had promised. So what happened here? 10 forgot that God had been with them, promised this land to their ancestors. They were expressing fear, pessimism, unbelief, irrationality, and that caused a rebellion among the rest of the population. These would be the Goers. We define that as someone who raises their feet, folds their arm, and says, whoa. Whenever new ideas are discussed, changes suggested or implemented. The other two, Caleb and Joshua, jumped in and had a completely different attitude. They showed confidence, courage, optimism, rationality, and most importantly, faith. If this is the land God wants us to have, based on His promise to our ancestors, then God will give it to us. I don't care how big the people are, what their cities are like. God says He's going to bring us into the land. But the people had to decide either to enter or retreat. And unfortunately, the crowd sided with the 10, and not the 2. So when we're facing a tough decision, we don't want the negatives to cause us to lose sight of the positives. We need to have faith in what we've been told and what we believe. We find that in every situation, every time, there's always eternal optimists and others are eternal pessimists. And in this case, the 10 Goers won out over the 2 Goers. You know the rest of the story. Basically tucked their tail, turned around, and left. So you see how the action of those 10 touched and affected that whole population for a generation. And in that case, that was a lifetime. That was a forever, an eternity for those folks. And remember that Joshua and Caleb, they'd not only seen the land, I mean, they were, all 12 of them were together, they had seen the same thing when they had traveled around. They also trusted in God's promise to give the land to the Israelites. They knew it wasn't going to be easy and would require something of them in the way of sacrifices if they were going to occupy that land. It wasn't, we decided to come in, here we go, set up my tent, go get some wood to make a fire, here we are, we're good, set our chairs out. They knew that they were going to have to fight for it. They were not going to be welcome there, and it was going to be a challenge to occupy that land. But God had promised it to them, and God doesn't go back on promises. There were battles to be waged and sacrifices made. There were 2 million Israelites waiting to invade a country. I'm almost positive the people that lived there were not going to take kindly to it, so it was going to be a struggle. But like I said, we know the rest of that story. And if we don't know the rest of the story, Part 2 is next week. So what's all this have to do with us? Our church, Hope Community Church, I think is standing on the border of our promised land and waiting to move forward. We've made some decisions as a body based on the vision of our leaders back in the spring as far as changing our name, trying to attract new believers to our body. We talked about upgrading our sanctuary, increasing our outreach programs, growing our kids ministry, and a number of other things. Time has now come to decide, are we going to be a goer or are we going to be a blower? We would plant our feet, embrace ourselves against change, but we embrace it and look forward with optimism, confidence, and courage, and a vision that our course is entering a new time and focus. Developing our Crown Street program, looking for new outreach opportunities, mission opportunities, looking for and encouraging the lost and those who do not know Christ in our communities. Or are we going to just sit by and let the fear and pessimism of change cause us to wander for another generation before we enter our promised land? Unbelief in the mission will always see the obstacles. Faith always sees the opportunities. And we remember what faith is. So, shall we serve God and others in spite of hardships that we may encounter going forward? Shall we serve God in spite of the fact that His way may not be the most popular in the world in which we live? Shall we serve God in spite of those who choose a different direction or just go with the flow? Shall we follow the steps of the 10 spies, both Caleb and Joshua? If we follow the Lord's leading, we can reach our promised land. We can be an influence for good in the lives of those in and around our community. So I ask you again, do you believe that everything you do matters or has consequences, and that each of our lives will affect the lives of those people we come in contact with, either positively or otherwise, in this lifetime